loss of biodiversity, degradation of seas and oceans, climate change, pollution, invasive species, emerging diseases. Everyone is talking about these issues, but what do they really mean? Why do they matter to us? And what can we do to make a difference and help protect our planet? These are complex topics that we invite you to explore with us through 18 short learning episodes. In this fourth episode of our adventure to find out more about nature, we're off to discover the aquatic world. Open your ears for this plunge into the other lung of our blue planet, the ocean. Seas and oceans cover 3/4 of the Earth's surface. This is where life first appeared, more than 3 billion years ago. The vast majority of living species today are found in the oceans, and most of them are still unknown to us. The oceans are immense reservoirs of biodiversity. There are mammals. Nearly 120 species live entirely: whales, sperm whales, dolphins, etc. Or partially, sea lions, bears, manatees, etc., in the seas and oceans. There are also reptiles, such as turtles. They are cold-blooded and live mainly in tropical seas. There are birds. We're used to seeing shorebirds from the shore, but the marine environment is also home to so-called pelagic species that venture thousands of kilometers from the coast. There are fish, of course. More than 18,000 species of marine fish are already known. There are also algae, including the famous phytoplankton, that serve as a food base for many species. There are invertebrates of all kinds. This group accounts for almost 1/4 of all known species of marine animals. This includes corals, sponges, jellyfish, shrimps, mussels, and so on. Let's not forget about bacteria and viruses. It is estimated, for example, that 90% of organisms living in the oceans are bacteria. Today, of the 240,000 marine species we know, many live in the upper reaches of the sea. And do you know why? Because there is a lot of plant plankton that proliferates on the surface of the water, thanks to the light that nourishes all living things. Without plankton, there would be no life in the seas. Note that there are 2 types of plankton: plant plankton or phytoplankton, such as microscopic algae, and animal plankton or zooplankton, such as krill. Within this exceptional biodiversity, each has a role to play in maintaining life. Microscopic plankton provide food for larger creatures, which in turn provide a meal for smaller fish. The small fish are then devoured by larger fish, and so on up to the largest predators such as sharks. This is what we call the food chain. Of course, marine ecosystems are varied, but each plays a well-defined role. The open sea, coral reefs, mangroves, seagrass meadows, and finally, the abysses are the foundation of the incredible richness of the seas and oceans. Why is this marine biodiversity so important to humanity? Because the seas and oceans provide many vital services to mankind. First and foremost, for the food they provide. The diet of a large part of humanity depends on fishing, making it vital to preserve fish stocks. According to the United Nations, almost 1.5 billion people live on fish. Fishing and aquaculture are also a source of income for hundreds of millions of people, particularly low-income families, and directly or indirectly help to feed these families. So it's not surprising that almost 40% of the world's population lives along its coasts. Secondly, the seas and oceans are a source of energy, as immense gas and oil resources can be found underwater, and renewable electrical energy can also be generated using swell and tides. In addition to these energy resources, there are also mineral resources. For example, salt, for our food, and sand, for our buildings, are drawn from the coast every year. And what would world trade be without the seas and oceans? Today, 90% of trade is carried out by sea. Sea transport may be slower, but it has the advantage of low CO2 emissions. The oceans and marine life are essential to the smooth running of the planet, providing 2/3 of the oxygen we breathe and absorbing more than 1/4 of the CO2 in the atmosphere. And the oceans also play a major role in the fight against climate change. They regulate the climate by absorbing 93% of the heat from the atmosphere, produced by greenhouse gases. As we can see, the seas and oceans and their fantastic biodiversity are vital to the survival of our planet. In the next few episodes, we'll see that unfortunately, this richness is being undermined. We'll find out what we can do to keep our oceans healthy and ensure the survival of our planet. We've reached the end of this episode. Thank you for listening attentively. Visit www.youth-conservation.org to learn more and explore all our resources dedicated to the environment and its protection. See you soon for the next episode.